All right, so today is the online lesson number 2, Clean Water Act and water pollution. So you have access to this Google Doc, which has the materials that you're going to need with the links. Instead of going to the Google form, it's on Canvas. There's a couple of vocabulary words plus some discussion questions, and again, your activities. We'll go through them together. You can't edit this. This is just for you to see. I think you can make a copy if you want to edit, but you're not turning this in. How I'm going to grade you is based on the Canvas quiz. The quiz is based on everything we're going to discuss together in class right now. And you can always refer back to any of the material that I'm giving to you today to answer the questions on the quiz. All right, the first thing we're going to do is I have a presentation to show you. Remember, this is designed for you to go at a slower rate, a faster rate, catch up. If you missed a class, you can catch up on your own. All of this is written so you can learn on your own. Okay. I say a couple of added details of my own personal knowledge or comments or opinions here in the lesson, but most of it, the online form can be answered with you going through the PowerPoint on your own and things like that, or you can follow along with me. All right. Life before the environmental movement. So all the way back to medieval times and beyond, people believed they could throw waste into the water and that the water would take care of it magically. For the most part, they were right, as long as the waste was natural and only a small amount. That behavior grew to people believing that the water could take care of any kind of waste and in any amount. So people just kept dumping things in the water, thinking magically the water would just clean itself. All right, overwhelming the water. When we put too much waste in the water, we can overwhelm the water's natural ability to break down pollution. The water becomes unhealthy. Much like your body, if your immune system is overstressed or comes into contact with a virus, you can become sick. The best example of a sick waterway is the Cuyahoga River, in Cleveland, Ohio. Oil and industrial waste was being dumped into the water at such a high rate that a thick layer of oil and waste debris covered the river's surface, polluting the water so much that nothing lived in it. It was a dead river. Imagine, look at this river and there's a thick layer of oil and just debris, and there's no living life. What is a dead river? A dead river or waterway can happen when there is so much pollution that plants and animals can no longer live in it. Plants need light from the sun to grow. If there is a thick layer of pollution or debris blocking the sun, the plant will not be able to thrive and produce oxygen for the water. Animals need oxygen in the water to survive. Without oxygen or with too much pollution, the water becomes unable to support life and thus becomes a dead river or waterway. A river on fire. The Cuyahoga River had a lot of oil in the thick layer of waste that sat on its surface from the oil refineries along the water edge. There was also railroad bridges that can run over the water. When sparks were created from the rail cars traveling over the metal tracks, the sparks would ignite the oil sitting on top of the river. The polluted waters would begin to burn. The river caught on fire 13 times, but it was the fire of 1969 that caught the nation's attention. Imagine a river catching on fire, a body of water on fire. Time magazine ran an article that showed pictures of the river on fire, and people became outraged. This was the spark of the environmental movement and people willing to stand up for the health of the earth. Now, this happened in 1969. So if you really think about it, it hasn't been that long ago that this movement or this like shock occurred. About 50 years ago, right? Your grandparents were like maybe like teenagers, right? During that time. People before that were just polluting, not thinking twice about what was happening. And things changed dramatically in 1970, or started to change, maybe not dramatically. The first Earth Day. In 1970, enough people were aware of how sick the waters and the earth were becoming that they created the first Earth Day to spread awareness even further. Millions joined in the first Earth Day, and since then, there have been many laws and regulations that have been written to protect the environment. One of the first laws written was the Clean Water Act that protects waters and keeps companies and people from dumping waste into the water and overstressing with pollution. The first, Earth Day is this Friday. If you have an Apple phone, you go to the calendar and you go over to Friday, it says Earth Day because Earth Day is celebrated on Friday. First one was in 1970. Again, I'm pretty sure your grandparents, maybe some of your parents were already born during this time. After the first Earth Day was held in April 1970, the environmental movement had built enough momentum that President Richard Nixon took notice. He signed an executive order that created the Environmental Protection Agency in December 1970. The Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, has overseen the management of environmental rules, regulations, and laws that have changed the way people treat and interact with the water and the earth. Waste is no longer allowed to be dumped into a waterway in the hope that the water will take care of it. Pollution is regulated and maximum amounts or benchmarks have been set as to what the water and earth can handle naturally without being overwhelmed. So we're trying to allow the waters to heal. Given enough time, the water and earth can heal from the majority of the pollutants with the exception of trash. Man-made trash can take thousands of years to break down, and most will only break into smaller pieces of trash. They won't completely disappear. The Cuyahoga River took 40 years to heal from industrial waste and oil that was once dumped into it. The oceans today are experiencing a similar problem to the Cuyahoga River, but at much greater rate of destruction with a lot more pollutants. Trash pollutants from drains and waters. What happens to the trash on the ground at school, in your neighborhood, and around town? So I'm sure you've all seen around town or at school before, you just see this random, trash on the floor. Well, what happens to it? Where does it magically go? Well, you see those funny looking holes in the ground with metal gates and covers around town, outside your home and in your neighborhood? Their main purpose is to keep areas from flooding during storms, but they also allow trash and other pollutants to flow unfiltered directly to the nearest waterway. So when cities were designed and streets were designed, they were like, oh, when it rains, it's going to flood. So they incorporated these storm drains, right? You see them outside your house, down the streets. If you drive down any street, you'll see these storm drains, right? They're massive, they're big storm drains. So those were just created to have the water from rain just run off, so it wouldn't flood the streets. If you ever encountered a flooded street, that means that there's not a good storm drain nearby or it's clogged. So they were just designed to just make the water go away. They were never designed to catch the trash. They were never designed to filter out trash and water. They were never designed to treat the water that's coming in to the storm drains. They were just designed to get all that massive amount of water after it rains, or if we lived in an area where it snowed, once the snow melted, all that water, and just take it away from the streets so it wouldn't flood. Never did they think about all the trash that would also be going into the storm drains, right? Once trash and pollutants make it to the water, they mix with other pollutions that was already there or mix in from another drain upstream, making the amount of trash even greater. In the water is where the most damage to the environment occurs. Yep. Animals and plants that live in and around the water are affected by the polluted waters. Also, people who use the water can be harmed by the pollution. Trashy beaches. People play in the water and will spend time on the beach. Trash from the storm drains can make its way onto the sand and rocks where people relax. They can be harmed by trash that is sharp or hazardous. The storm drains are not the only way that trash gets on the sand. Careless beachgoers can be forgetful and leave trash on the beach as well. Or wind and birds can get a hold of the trash and sweep it down to the water's edge. Maybe you've been to the beach and you've seen trash on the sand, right? Or other debris. Trash that makes it into the water can stay floating on top, sink a bit to the middle, or even settle all the way down to the bottom. This affects the entire water column and all of the plants and animals that live anywhere near those waters. Waterways that are used as a source of drinking water can become entirely polluted from stormwater runoff or careless littering. This, I don't know if you've ever heard of. This is like crazy to learn about. I learned about it before. I didn't know in greater detail. I've been learning more about it recently, but this is just like mind blowing. The next couple of slides. It's just like, what? This exists? So Great Pacific Garbage Patch. One of the biggest examples of polluted waters is the North Pacific Ocean. It's called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Trash and other pollutants have been gathering in the center of the ocean since 1950s. Stormwater runoff from land is a major contributor of the trash that has been floating into the ocean. Today, there is so much trash in the North Pacific Ocean that if you could gather it all up and lay it on the ground like a carpet, you would cover the entire state of Texas more than 2 times. The amount of trash entering the world's ocean is currently at a rate of about 14 billion pounds of trash per year. 14 billion pounds per year of trash in the ocean each year. There's a lot of trash. Nature can naturally process natural waste, but not man-made trash. Okay. A garbage patch forms when ocean gyres pick up pollution along the coast. Gyres are circular currents in the ocean that blend when they land and scoop up trash from storm drains, beaches, and waterways. The current swirls and create a huge whirlpool effect, like when you flush a toilet and all the waste travels to the center. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is the most known to us because we are the closest to it. However, there are 5 gyres in the world oceans, and therefore 5 main garbage patches. So there's these 5 ginormous patches of trash floating in the ocean. I mean, some of it kind of looks like a country, and it can be seen from like I don't think it can be seen from space. I'll double check on that, but it can be seen from like up high. Like it's just this like, it's like a floating island and it moves. It's like an island, but it's just constantly moving in it, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger because this, the way the ocean currents are, it goes into a circular pattern and then just keeps picking up trash from the beaches, picking up all this trash, and then so these patches get bigger and bigger and bigger each year. It's crazy. And we've recently discovered them. It wasn't like we know they existed 100 years ago. We've recently discovered them. The 5 carbon patches in the world oceans are growing every day. The more people that know about the effects of trash on our waters and oceans, the more help we can get to improve the health and the environment for the good of everyone. So like, here's an image of the ocean. I'm sure in the middle of the ocean, and it's just a layer of trash. How does it affect us? The impact on the trash on the ocean negatively affects all of the systems of the earth, the air quality, the food web, climate change, and so much more. Over 1 million seabirds and 100 marine mammals die each year from eating trash or getting entangled in it. Also, turtles will mistakenly eat plastic bags thinking they are jellyfish, their favorite food. Trash can also pollute water supplies for irrigation and drinking. In a sense, people are polluting themselves when they litter. So it comes back to us, you know, you're eating that ice cream, you're like, oh, where do I throw away the stick? I'm just going to toss it. Well, it comes back to us, right? So in this picture, we see a dead bird, and inside its stomach contents is like different plastics and trash. Here we see a turtle with like some sort of like rubber band around its shell. So basically it got entangled at a younger age. And as it grew with this abnormal shape because of the band that was wrapped around its shell at a young age. So imagine it's like deformed. Yep. And then the turtle with eating some sort of plastic bag. And then the sea lion who got a plastic ring stuck in its mouth. And because it doesn't have a thumb, it couldn't take it off. So therefore it probably died of starvation because it couldn't open its mouth because of this plastic ring that someone just, you know, didn't think twice about it and littered or something, or didn't dispose of it correctly. All of a sudden it ends up in the ocean, and then it affects marine life. It affects us as well. There was one that was looking at this documentary where like the fish were eating small particles of trash, and that same fish is what we catch and then we sell at the stores. Fantastic. It's fantastic. How can you help? Spreading the message of reducing waste and picking up trash can help a lot. Picking up the trash is so helpful, and everyone can do it. Also, learning more about stormwater pollution will give you knowledge to make an even greater difference. In the SWEEP internship, you are trained to be a water quality professional and an expert in pollution reduction. You will be part of a unique and special team of thousands of SWIP interns who are working towards cleaner and healthier waters for all. Right? So whenever we refer to interns in this class, that's you. We don't call you students, we call you interns. It's like I hired you to, you know, go and adopt a drain and do research on it, some observations, some data collection, and then come back, present your findings and present a solution to it or educate us, right? So we're going to do your part to, you know, better the water rates. Okay, before we move on, no, never mind. I want to go to this. Okay, so I just went over the PowerPoint presentation, which is a slideshow there. You have 3 vocabulary words that were discussed during the PowerPoint. The discussion questions today are very similar to the ones from Friday. We'll go over those now. The water that goes down the drain in our sinks, showers, and toilets gets cleaned at a water treatment plant. What do you think happens to the water that goes down the gutter when it rains? Well, it goes into the storm drains and travels into the waterways untreated, right? It goes directly into the waterways. Nothing treating it, all that water, all that trash, the oil from the cars and the pavement, all of that debris, fertilization, all goes down the storm drain and basically ends up in our oceans. Stormwater goes directly into our waterways untreated. What might be some impacts to the environment? Might be harmful to the animals, harmful to people who use the water or play with it. I don't think it has happened recently, but I know after like it rains heavily here in Orange County, they sometimes close some of the beaches or parts of the beach because wherever the water wave goes into the ocean or the Santa Ana River goes into the ocean, bacteria levels increase, trash obviously increase, so they'll have to close down the part of the part of the ocean to people because it's just the levels are outrageous right after a storm. So right after a storm, you might want to listen to the day after the news where the beaches are closed to people. You really don't notice it because usually right after it rains, it's pretty cold. So you're like, I'm not going to the beach, but they do close them after a big storm. What types of harmful materials might be carried into the stormwater? Trash, toxic chemicals from cars, fertilizers, and other sources are directly going into your storm drain. Have you ever arrived at a lake or the beach only to find that it was closed to swimmers? What do you think? Why do you think it was closed? People could get sick if they went into the water, right? So we will discuss like what kind of bacteria is found near waterways. Yeah, we'll learn more about that. Did you ever know that a river can catch on fire? How or why do you think that could have happened? If the river is very polluted, covered in oil, a spark could ignite it. Can you imagine, like literally a body of water catches on fire? Imagine how much trash and oil was there for it to catch on fire. We use water to stop fires. Crazy. It's crazy. All right. So let me show you a quick little video about the river we were talking about. You can watch it burn.
Prior to the late 1960s, there was no federal legislation to protect the environment. A number of events led to a shift in the American consciousness. One of these events occurred in the summer of 1969 when the Cuyahoga River caught fire. Starting in the 1860s, the city of Cleveland dumped its raw sewage directly into the river. Industry also dumped flammable liquids such as oil and gasoline. All these pollutants created floating oil slicks that caught fire a total of 9 times since the late 1800s. In 1951, the Ohio Water Pollution Control Board was created. It became unlawful to pollute any river without a permit. However, permits were granted to industries that existed on rivers already designated for industrial use. The largest of the fires occurred in 1952 with an estimated $1.5 million in damages. Yet this fire was only covered in the local newspapers. It did not capture the American public's attention.
I want to go over something that you'll need for tomorrow/Friday's class. For tomorrow/Friday, I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow because it's a modified day. We have time, we'll do it tomorrow. If not, we'll do it on Friday. It's a little tiny little lab. There's 2 labs. This lab asks you to just get some things from around the house. And I have already updated the list of things that you need for the lab. But I'm going to show you right here in greater detail what it is. If you don't have these things, there is a different activity you can do. So there's, it's not like, oh, I can't do it. I don't have this. I'm done. No. There's a backup. But of course, if you have these materials and you can do the lab, it just becomes even like, better experience for yourself because you get to see it firsthand. You get to learn it. You get to actually, use your hands. It's pretty cool. Okay. So the first one is called the watershed model. Okay. These are the things you need. A tinfoil pan. So it's kind of like a pan that like your parents might use to like cook a turkey or a roast. It's made out of like a heavy aluminum. If you have just like a regular, like rectangular roasting pan, that works too. a white plastic bag, like a garbage bag, make sure it's white, newspaper, newsprint sheets. So basically if you have like paper that we can like crumble up in a ball, that's what that is. This you might not have, and I don't want you to go buy it. Don't. Food coloring bottles. So like you might have it in your kitchen, little tiny bottles that like make something red or blue or green. You drop it into like frosting and it'll change the color of frosting, for example. Not very common for all of first you guys to have. Ask your parents if they have them. Don't need to buy it though. Spray bottle. You might have a spray bottle maybe in the restroom or in the garage. Paper towels, I know you have. Candy sprinkles. So basically, this will represent like pollutants. A bottle of cooking oil. You're only gonna need a little bit of oil. So yeah. Then the second lab will require you to gather these materials. It's called the filtration lab. Just between us, this is my favorite lab. Not my favorite lab. Of the two, this is the one I would want you to do hands down. This is the one. And actually the materials are easier to gather. You're gonna need a glass, you're gonna need 2 glass jars. If it's like mason jars work well. If you don't have a mason jar, if you just have 2 big tall glasses of glass, like where you drink water or milk or soda, like in the kitchen, like if you have 2 glasses, I have one right here. So like just glass. Okay. If you have 2 of these, that would work. Okay. So I know all of you have that. All right. And we're not putting any chemicals in it. So you're just going to wash it and it'll be fine. 2 plastic cups. So if you have 2 like red cups that you might use like from your like a old birthday, 2 of them, I call them red cups, but if you have 2 plastic cups, we're gonna be drilling some holes underneath. Someone in my 5th period asked, can I use a water bottle? And I said, yes, you can just cut off the top of it. Just be very careful when you do. And then we're gonna drill some holes at the bottom. So you need 2 plastic containers. So either like plastic cups, 2 water bottles, emptied, of course. And then you're gonna need some natural materials. You're gonna need potting soil, which is basically dirt, gravel, which is like small little like pebbles, sand, if you have sand at your house, wood chips. So like wood chips are like, sometimes they cover around like flowers or trees to prevent weeds from growing. So check out your garden, see if you have any wood chips. Cotton balls, ask your parents if you have some cotton balls. You just need like a couple of cotton balls. If you have coffee filters, nowadays people don't use coffee filters anymore. Okay. So if you have those things around the house, we're going to need that. Yes. Yes, definitely. The wood chips can also be used in playgrounds. It just softens the surface, the hard surface. You're also going to need bigger rocks. So not gravel, but like bigger rocks, which I don't know if I have any. You know what I'm going to use instead of big rocks? I'm going to use golf balls because they're bigger than the gravel and they're solid. So I'm going to find some rocks, bit of solid pollution. So litter sprinkles. So you can use the candy sprinkles here or litter. So any like I'm going to find some like stuff around the house that I can create litter out of. Like if I eat some chips today, I might keep the plastic bag. Yes.
Can you just get litter from the trash can?
I guess so. Yeah. Maybe start tonight where like, oh, I'm eating this bag of chips. I'm not gonna throw it in the trash. I'm just gonna leave it here and use it for my lab. Or if I'm gonna chew some gum, I'm going to save the wrapper and not throw it away and just keep it for litter, like litter. So we gotta find some litter around the house, some trash. So basically, these materials are one for like natural things that we find out in nature, and one of them is like kind of like man-made litter. Rocks are like going to be representing the concrete that man made. So we're gonna have two experiments going at the same time. One with natural filtration, the earth filtration, and the other one is man-made filtration, like concrete, and that's where the rock comes in. And then another large glass and more dirt soil. Okay. So 3 basically jars or cups of glass and 2 plastic cups. I think the filtration lab, which is, I like it. I like this lab better. all of those things, in my opinion, you should have around the house. I mean, or outside your house, right? Dirt, some gravel, sand around the house. You don't need a lot. You're basically going to be like filling up half of that plastic cup, right? So if your plastic cup is this tall, you don't need it filled with dirt. You need a little bit of dirt, a little bit of gravel, a little bit of sand if you have it. If you don't have all of these, but you have some of them, that works, right? Don't go out and buy sand if you don't have sand. That's fine. I'm assuming everyone can find some dirt out in the, outside. Dig up your grass. I'm just kidding. Don't. But if you need to, do it. It's for science, The top lab, if you don't have all of these things, don't worry about it. It's not my favorite lab. But if you have some of it, we'll make it work. But I seriously strongly feel that everyone in the class can do the filtration lab. Everyone has enough of these things around their house that it can make it work. I don't know if we're doing this lab officially tomorrow or Friday. I have to teach you something new tomorrow and then do the lab. So I don't know if I'm going to spend the whole period just teaching you everything. And then Friday be like, all right, Friday, we'll start with the lab. Or Wednesday, be like, hey, we have time for everything. Let's do it. Let's crank it out. After you do the labs, there will be a Canvas, let's call it quiz or form to fill out based on what your observations are of the lab. So it's important that you at least get one of the labs done. I think the filtration lab, like I said, is something that you guys can totally do at home with supplies that you have at home. The watershed one, maybe not, or maybe you can do part of it. Oh, I don't have the sprinkles, but I do have the cooking oil, or I don't have the food coloring, but maybe I can find something else that could represent food coloring. Basically, it's a liquid that is of a different color. Maybe you have like lemonade that you can use, or Gatorade that you can use to replace the food coloring, right? Right, because the food coloring, you're going to be dropping it, and like you're going to notice how those red drops or blue drops or green drops go down a watershed. You could go like, you know what, I'm going to use Gatorade because it's blue, and do those droplets, and you're only going to need a couple of drops. You're not going to need the whole container of Gatorade. That's a great replacement. I didn't think about that fifth period, but now that I'm telling it to you, I'm just like, genius. So if you don't have food coloring, don't go out and buy it. If you have Gatorade or some sort of liquid that's darker, I mean, I don't want to say open up a bottle of soda, but maybe. And then of course I'll give further directions of how to build this and actually do the experiment a little later. But if you gather your materials, you're set for it. All right. So right now, what I'm going to give you is to do the Canvas quiz 2. So if you go to your Canvas, instead of doing a Google form like last time, I changed it to like a quiz in the form of a quiz. It's lesson 2, Clean Water Act and water pollution. Now, it's 9 questions. Each question is worth 3 points. So right now, your assignment for the last 20 minutes left in class, you're going to do the lesson 2, Clean Water Pollution. The access code is ocean. Access code is ocean. That's the code that you're going to need to complete this. Now, if you click on it and you're like, oh, I forgot. You go to this worksheet that you have access to. You go back to the Google Slides. You read them again. You try to find the answer. Some of the answers, 99% of the answers are found on the Google slide presentation I went over today. Some of them might be found in the discussion questions, but I want to say most of them are found in the Google Slides I went over. Oh my gosh, Miss Amelia, I wasn't paying attention. I was playing a video game. Okay, cool. Sure. Why not? You have access to it. You can go back and read it yourself. Again, these lessons are written so you can do it all on your own. Miss Amelia, I just arrived to class like 5 minutes ago. I don't know what you guys are doing. Go to Canvas, click on it, click on the assignments. It's basically self-paced. There it is. I'm giving you the access code now. It is ocean, 9 questions. And I'm going to write here how much time I gave you. So for period 5, period 6, given 20 minutes to complete this in class on April 20th at 12:10 p.m. So there's no like, she didn't give me enough time. She made it homework. No, I gave you class time, kids. Right now, it's recorded. Period 6. There you go. So right now you're accessing the lesson 2 Clean Water Act and Pollution like quiz. It's a multiple choice. You'll see your score immediately after. Take your time. You have 20 minutes. You can open it and there's no timer on it. It's not going to take you 20 minutes. If you need to go back to the slides, you can. I see some of you are already on there. So you have access to everything. Everything is linked up onto Canvas. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know.